All right, it is 11 a.m. and court is back in session. Moving on to item number 21, budget workshop. Initial discussion regarding preparation of the fiscal year 2018 Hardin County budget, including requests for budget increases made by some departments, outstanding requests for budget proposals, and setting a schedule for any future workshops as necessary. Commissioners, I handed each of you a little packet that I put together, just some notes that I wanted to kind of go over with you, just to kind of get a initial discussion going to show where I think we are. And I'd like to get some input from each of you as to future budget workshops and any information that you would like for us to have ready for you that we don't have ready today.
Do you have an extra copy?
I don't, but I'll give you one. The first page is just a little worksheet that I put together. This shows all of the departments who have submitted their budget proposal. Any of those that have a bold yes in there, those are some increases that have been requested. There's quite a few departments who have requested some increases, but as you'll see, none of them are very extravagant. Just for instance, there's Constable Precinct 3 has asked for an increase of $150 for office supplies. The county attorney has an increase, and I don't have that I didn't put that amount correct because, yes I did, because there's already $3,000 in her budget for mileage for the investigator. She's asked for a $6,700 increase. That's not just for investigator mileage, that's includes an amount for that. The total amount for that is $89.88 if I remember right. And then she has an equipment expense that's going up. It's her annual computer or monthly computer maintenance that's going up because she increased a service there that she didn't have before. The treasurer has an increase, and that's not a very big amount. Most of that is her bond that comes up every 3 years. If I remember right, that's $1,090, and then a $50 a month increase for her copier. Next is the district clerk. She has a $1,800 increase for travel and training and equipment rental. And if I remember right, that equipment rental increase was because of her copier. Human Resources has requested to move the part-time clerk in her department to full-time. That's the only increase being requested there. Indigent Healthcare, of course, always requests the full amount that's allotted by the state. Other than that, there's no specific line item increases other than the annual amount that Ms. Davis always includes for the state requirement. And then Road and Bridge 1, 2, and 4 have requested some increases in an employee in Road and Bridge 1, material sale and uniform increase in Road and Bridge 2, and materials increase in Road and Bridge 4. And then in the tax assessor collector's office, she's requested a $2,000 increase for computer expense. So just to kind of summarize this, most of these departments, I don't think that we will need to have a budget workshop unless anyone here objects. Of course, I would probably ask the county attorney to come in, and the district clerk, Human Resources, and the tax collector's here if we want to talk to her today about the computer equipment expense, but I don't think there would actually need to be a specific workshop just to call her in for that. And then we have several departments here who have not submitted a budget proposal yet. Now, some of those are pretty large departments, as you can see. So I'm hoping that that means there's no increases that's being requested in those departments, because that's how I'm going to proceed from this day forward, is that there shouldn't be any increases in those departments since they're 3 weeks late on turning in their budget proposal. The next page is a sheet that I've received from Angela. Angela, I think you may have passed out an updated one this morning, and I printed this out from something you sent me several weeks ago.
It was the same one I sent you several weeks ago, and I passed it out today.
Okay, so this talks about the estimate that we received from the chief appraiser, and I do have a copy of that attached to this as well for the general fund, and then we also have the CERTZ fund. Those estimated values in the past, if you'll remember, at least last year, I remember that our estimated values had decreased by some $21 million or $24 million over the previous year. This year, for the first time, I think, since at least 2008, there's a slight increase in estimated values from our current certified values to our 2017 estimated values. And that increase, if I remember right, is about $500,000. And if you'll notice in the column over here to the right, the actual revenue increase to the county would be $1,201. It's not a big increase, but at least it's not a decrease this year, which is what we've worked with for the past several number of years that I can recall. So I did ask the chief appraiser in the past. That has always been a conservative figure that we receive from the chief appraiser or the appraisal district. We have a new chief appraiser this year, and I have met with her twice regarding our estimated values, and she has told me both times that those are conservative, and she looks for those to increase when we receive our certified values, which she says we should have by July 20th. So that brings up a couple of dates I want to throw out to you. Our proposed budget is due. It's not by statute, but it's just kind of a general rule that counties will file a proposed budget by July 31st. My goal is that we will have a proposed budget ready to file no later than July 28th. And I would hope that we can adopt that or discuss that and accept that at our regular meeting on July 24th. And then last year we adopted our final budget that we're currently working under at our first meeting in September, and I'm hoping we can do that again this year. And that meeting will be on September 11th. The next item that I've put in your packets for you is some salaries. Now, Debbie did quite a bit of work to put this together for me. This lists all of the employee positions by title and the department that they're in, and I asked her to put names on there for me just to kind of help me to see who each of these positions were. And I put together a proposal for salary increases. This would be for every department. And what I would ask all the commissioners to do is take this with you and study it. It is not a straight across the board increase. However, the increases do range anywhere from 1.5% to a little over 5%. And I did base that off of the amount that they make now. So in other words, somebody like me probably didn't get very big of a raise because I make a lot of money. And those who make a low hourly or bi-weekly amount, theirs may have increased up around 4.5% or 5%. And I just ask that you look through that, and any comments regarding that, if you'll get back with me on that, we can discuss it one-on-one, or we can discuss it at the next budget workshop, or we can discuss some of this today. If you notice anything that you'd like to discuss today, I'd be glad to do so.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
this workup that you had here, do you have a total increase in our budget?
It's, I don't have the total increase of the, including fringes, but just the salary amount increase is around $457,000. Just a gross salary increase based on these numbers here.
And for our next budget, I know we're probably gonna work the auditor a lot, but I would like to, I think this is a great idea, and I would like to study this. But I would like the auditor to also, if you could figure us out what it would cost to have a 5% across the board for all employees, what it would cost us.
I'd like to maybe expand that 3, 4, and 5
Okay.
across the board.
And you'd want to see the salaries and the fringes associated with
I
that,
would
right?
wanna know what it would increase what
Total.
increase it would have to our budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I guess we'd have to include fringes here, wouldn't we? To find out the total increase?
Yes, sir, we would.
think
But I
this is
didn't want
good
them to do a
idea.
lot of work on that yet until I saw whether or not this was going to be accepted or any other changes that might need to be made to that. One thing that department heads have asked me is they have people working in their office at a certain rate. They have people in other offices that do similar jobs or in some cases it's the very same job, but they make a little more money. So when a position comes open, well, they'll lose that person and there's a turnover in that office because other departments are making more and they're doing a job that's similar to what they're doing in another office. So of course, they're gonna put in for that job and try to move to make more money. And certainly don't blame them. And I've been asked to try to look at that and try to even out some of those pay rates, and I've done that here. Of course, if I've overlooked anybody, I certainly want to know that as well.
Thank you.
Another thing I'd like to see us do is our pay scale. There's a lot of confusion and what have you regarding the pay scale that we have. That was a scale that was adopted several years ago. Commissioner Pelt has discussed in here that we had decided to do away with that because we don't have the money to continuously do a step pay every year. And so I would like, we've never formally done that, and I would like to during our budget sessions, look at maybe formally doing away with that step pay scale but just adopt a a base pay for each position that we work from, and do something similar to what I did here each year. Each department head can come to me, we'll work on that. You can go to a commissioner and work on it with one of the commissioners if you like, but we want to do something that's fair and equitable across the board to all employees, and make sure that we're taking care of our people the best that we can, because they're certainly taking care of us and the citizens.
Would that recommendation, I think we discussed this last year in budget. Would that recommendation be for all departments, including sheriff's office, or because we was into an agreement with the sheriff's office, they would still have step pay?
I think it's something we just need to discuss.
Okay.
We need to, during one of our future workshops, and maybe with the sheriff here, that's something that we should discuss with him and decide how we're gonna handle that.
All right.
I would like to see us in the future adopt some sort of longevity pay and just do away with the step pay altogether, and maybe do it on a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year increments. And somebody who's here 5 years, they just automatically get a longevity pay. Of course, we gotta make sure we can afford that, and so I don't think that's something we're ready to do this year, but it is something I'd like to see us work toward in the future.
I fully agree with getting rid of that, because I thought we had gotten rid of it. We abandoned it over 10 years ago.
And just never formally was done. I checked
But
with
it
Judge
creates
Caraway
a lot of
and
confusion
Rose.
because employees see it and they
Yes, sir.
think, and rightly so.
It's confusing to all of us,
Yeah.
and so I would like to see us get rid of that confusion. And I think the time to do that is during our adoption of the new budget.
I would also like the court to consider having an evaluation process where we evaluate employees on an annual basis and have a set minimum raise and a maximum raise, so that your highest performing employees receive more than your lowest performing employees. And so I'd like the court to consider that. It may not be something we adopt this year, but if we could do an evaluation process where the elected official or department head could evaluate their employees.
I currently do annual evaluations every year, and I have them on file at my office. So you would be recommending merit raises instead of longevity, or in lieu of?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. So, if we're gonna reward for longevity, I'm for that too. And then based on merit, let's say if you have someone perfect attendance and who goes above and beyond, obviously they're a high performer. If you have someone in your department who's chronic call-in, who's had some safety issues, who's had other issues going on, then obviously, say if you're gonna have a 5% max, 2% minimum, because whenever your highest performing employee gets the same raise as your lowest performing employee, it does tend to lower morale. If they know they're gonna get across the board raise and everybody's gonna get the same, then there's no incentive for the guy who's just barely making it versus the guy who's outstanding.
What is the
That's
retirement?
what private industry does. That's called a merit system.
It's motivational.
And it's a good system. The only drawback in county government or city government or state government is all salaries are public. And so it creates a lot of problems of its own, because everybody knows what everybody makes.
So how would that impact, say if you had someone, and it's really just a discussion?
Well, the way it impacts the one that's applying it. And that's what led to this right here.
Right.
You know.
I still like the evaluation process.
Oh,
I think it's a great idea.
I love it. It's
think
just
it's hard to
difficult.
do.
It just has pitfalls in government because,
You have 30 different people making those decisions as to who gets what.
yeah.
I
And
think,
they're not gonna apply it the same way. No offense to anybody that's here or that works here, but everybody's gonna apply that a different way, and then it ends up being like you said, it creates another issue.
I think a good example of that is what we ran into last year when we were actually working on the sheriff's budget. The judge and I met with the sheriff and the ex-sheriff together. And because you was bringing someone in brand new and putting them in a position that a person had been there 20 years.
Right.
And wanting to pay them that amount that person had been paying, I think that's what you run into with something like that, or similar. So it's very complicated trying to level out this pay scale, especially like the judge was talking about a while ago. But I do think something needs to be looked into on how we could. And if we eliminate the step, maybe that's it.
Like I said, y'all please take this that I put together and study that. If you see any discrepancies, I certainly want to know that because I don't want to have forgotten anyone. Or, of course, if I went too far in one direction with anyone, I need to know that as well. And I'm just looking for any input regarding this. If you don't like it at all, I'd like to know that as well. So I don't want to waste any more time on it.
Did
But
you, Judge, and like I said, I haven't looked over all this, but I will, did you, with the lowest paid employees in the county, did you automatically say 5% for a certain?
yes, sir. The lowest paid employees in the county, their increase that I put into that is around 5%. It may be 4.7 or 5.2, but it's around 5%. Because what I did is whatever their hourly rate is, I made it an even number.
Okay.
So if it came to $13.97, I made it 14, depending on who we're talking about.
Well, you've done a lot of work, Judge. Budget time should be short this year.
Well, I was hoping to do that, yes, sir. That's the reason I wanted to start this discussion today. We have Ms. Campbell here today from TCDRS, and she asked us what we were, or asked us to think about making any changes to our plan. I don't anticipate, just my opinion, that we'll make any changes at all regarding our benefits. We'll keep them just like they are. We do currently pay just slightly more than what is required. I'd like to see us increase that on up, maybe even around 15%. We might not be able to go quite that high, but
I agree.
Commissioner Kirkendall and I have discussed it. I think 14.5 would be the minimum that we should pay, and that helps us work toward paying off that unfunded liability that we have. If we can go 15, I'd like to see us do that. And then it is the year that we need to look at COLAs, and so we will be getting that information from Debbie during one of our future budget workshops to see what that cost is going to be. But honestly, it's something that we promised the retirees we would do, and I think that's something we certainly need to look at.
Just so everybody knows, we got together with TCDRS a few years ago, and they said for retirees, it's about every 5 years to give a cost of living adjustment, and we're there around the 5-year mark. And so, and what the COLA does, it reaches back those 5 years and brings them up to whatever the adjustment was. So there's no lost value over the 5 years. It just makes it a better budgetary figure for us to do it every 5 years instead of annually. Because, well, we did a little kind of informal survey, and we were doing them every year, and it was only like a $5 maybe max that the retiree was seeing on their check. So,
Angela, I think you handed us some information this morning that states where we are regarding our surplus funds.
Yes, sir. Let me ask a question before we move
Sure.
on. The retirement rate, when I calculate the benefits for these estimated raises, what rate would you like?
Current?
Well, we have to at least do 14.14, and that's above what we currently do. So the required rate,
yeah. You agree?
So we're paying lower than the required right now?
Well, it's
we're
coming up
paying-
for January.
Oh, okay.
What's been recommended for next year?
Yeah, 14.14.
Well, I hate to overstep. Can we at least leave it, are we paying 14.3 right now?
14.33.
I'd like to at least leave it there. I wouldn't want to go backwards.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that was the question I had,
Yeah, we're paying over.
I agree with paying over. Yeah,
Okay.
14, what we're paying right now.
Okay.
Okay, the sheet that the judge was referring to, our audit is currently being reviewed as we speak by the partners of the firm. And so I did talk to her, and she did verify the numbers that I came up with is on track of what they have, pending any other adjustments, which she will let us know by the end of the week. But we are looking at an estimate of $3.8 million in our fund balance at the close of fiscal year 16.
Have we already utilized what we set aside for the annex?
Yes, sir, that's exactly what I did. She actually said it's close to $5 million, but by the time you subtract the reserved amounts that we have in place, then the bottom line is 3.8. We have to subtract $900,000 for the annex. Then we have a prepaid unemployment insurance of $19,662.72. We have some donated funds that are currently in our budget that has not been completely expensed at this time. I do not know if they will before the fiscal year ends. We're trying to get them to do so. But if not, we have some donated funds for the sheriff's office, district clerk, and the veterans park. And then we have a prepaid health insurance, which consists of our dental, life, vision, workers' comp, and health. And so that brings it down to the $3,819,498.55.
And when we budgeted, what we thought we would be at the end of 16, what was that amount? Do you remember? Do you have it handy? Was it around 3?
What we,
Well, we budgeted, or what we forecasted where we would be with our surplus funds at the end of 16, didn't we, after we
think it
took
was
that 900,000 out, wasn't it 3 million?
yes, sir, that's exactly,
We're ending at 3.8.
yes, sir.
That's
Great
pretty good
job.
news.
Great job.
And that's attributed to all of the department heads that work here. They underspent their budgets by quite a bit. And that's where that comes from.
It's a great job.
We increased the fund balance by $296,000.
Great job. And also too, want to commend the court. We were under 80% being funded just a few years ago, and now we're at 85. And that's a tremendous jump in just a short period of time. So I commend the court for doing that. It's a very good job.
I would hope that, our employees, and I'm sure they do, appreciate the fact, I think Mr. Pelt brought this up last year during budget, the fact that not too many, other counties or government entities pay a 2-to-1 match on retirement like we do, and I think that's a great asset.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Pelt said at one time they did that in lieu of a raise or something to that effect.
We did that when we adjusted the the healthcare benefits. And this was, of course, Glenda was here at the time, and some others were too. This was something that the court put to the employees where they would like to see the dollars. And it was the consensus of the employees at that time that they'd rather see it on their retirement than the county's contribution to the medical part.
It's a great recruitment and retainment
Yeah.
benefit.
Speaking of health insurance, we don't have our renewal rates yet, but Debbie says we should have those in about 2 weeks. They have given her an indication that there would be a slight increase, but we don't have any indication that it'll be a major increase. Is that right?
Yeah, I should receive it around July 1st.
Okay. Any other
Debbie,
discussion? Yes,
I
sir.
have a question about,
Sure.
on the health, when they calculate our experience modifier, do they take what they actually pay hospitals and doctors? Or do they take what hospitals and doctors bill them?
I would have to ask them that
Would
question.
you ask them that? Because that's a tremendous difference. I just wonder what they're plugging in.
It should be on what's actually paid out as far as our loss ratio. I think it's based on
should
that.
be.
Yes, sir. Does anybody have any disagreement with again, I only called out just a few offices that we need to have budget workshops with. Does anybody see anyone on the list that I didn't call out that you'd like to see me schedule a workshop with? Again, I'll just restate it. It'd be the county attorney's office, the district clerk's office, human resources.
I thought they were very
The tax office.
conservative.
Did you say, Judge, there are some departments you don't have budgets from?
Yes, sir. Now, anybody that's got a blank in here where it says the
okay.
date received, I haven't received those. Now, some of them have an asterisk. It's because those are grant departments,
Yeah.
and I have not even asked them for theirs yet. So,
I would
don't,
assume this time, if they haven't responded, they're satisfied with what you do.
that's what I was assuming too, yes. sir.
Certainly will. Will this get you where you need to be?
What the $2,000 is, our server is several years old, and they have recommended that we upgrade. So that's why Lisa got an estimate, and that would cover that. That's what that extra $2,000 should cost.
I haven't looked at the breakdown on yours, and I know you have a special, a unique line item for elections, and I remember the, Shirley coming in saying only every other year or something that you might need to put money in there for. Have you covered that with the judge?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think it's in her outside services line item, if I'm not mistaken, that has to do with the mail outs and what have you.
Amounts for voter registration cards every other year.
So we've asked her about the computer expense. Do we really need to have another workshop with Ms.
I'm sorry.
Cook? So we'll take her off the list then.
She was supposed to be on vacation.
That's what she
starting
said.
Today.
And she said, keep this short, and here we
Yeah.
are, 11:25.
Grandchildren are waiting.
Right?
Judge, can I ask a question?
Yes, Ms. Davis?
In July, Ms. Cook will get back with me with some new figures. So the $997,000, that was strictly for the payment of the indigent healthcare medical claims for our indigent eligible clients, Hardin County residents, that will go up some in July.
Yes, ma'am. Just like in the past, you've submitted a revised proposed budget, and I always file that away with our proposals, and so just turn that in when you have it,
We
and I'll,
always expect that there will be an increase,
yes, ma'am. Right.
but that's strictly for that part of that piece of the puzzle.
Yes, ma'am.
Right off the top of your head, are you aware of any legislation that's gonna come up in the special session that affect any of your indigent care? Cause I haven't looked at all the bills they're gonna look at, but.
Not that I'm aware of right now. But I do know, there's supposed to be some cuts where Medicaid is concerned, and, we pay Medicaid rates.
Yeah.
Which is what the state will, the state tells us what we pay, so there may be a decrease in payments on some things. But I did want to mention, I think
Thank you.
everybody that's here knows that it goes up, that we start off with May, and in July, we get another figure and it goes up.
Yes, ma'am. When we get our certified values in, is that right? Then that will go up.
We notify you when that.
Thank you. At this time, I'd just like to ask what dates that, I have some dates from Commissioner Cooper and Ms. Gore that they're not available during the next 6 weeks or so to have workshops. Are there any dates, Commissioner Kirkendall, that you wouldn't be available?
Can I email you?
Sure can.
I'm available anytime.
All right. So if you'll send those to me, I'd appreciate it. And I don't think we'll have a need to have a workshop within the next week. I'll continue working on this along with Angela and Ms. Cook and other department heads as well, and we'll set some budget workshop dates for July when we have everybody's availability. I just want to say again how much I appreciate working with each department head and how much I think the court appreciates how much that they do for the county, and they do a lot with very little. And just we'll keep doing that, keep doing a good job, and everybody's done a great job as far as not spending the money if they don't have to spend it. And that's been
Absolutely.
Well, we certainly appreciate
Very good.
y'all
thank you.
very much.
Is there any information that any of the commissioners would like to make sure I have ready for the next meeting that I didn't have today?
No, we just get Angela to bring donuts.
Let's see if we can work on that.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kirkendall and a second by Commissioner Cooper. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
I'd like to know when y'all got this new mascot.